right, folks, I've got a hot take. You should probably break up with most of your current friends. I know, spicy, but true. You see, loyalty, I believe, is actually overrated. We give loyalty away like it's free, but it's not. It's Thursday night, and for the fourth night in a row, I'm at happy hour in a cheap, smoky bar. And there's a tug of war going on between the loud music in this ear and the boisterous, loud, drunken laughs in the other. And my stomach is churning, not so much because of the cheap drinks, I think I'm on number 4 at the time, but more so because I look around and I realize I'm not supposed to be there. I don't know any of these people. I mean, I'm approximate to them. A couple of guys from work, the lady that lives near me, folks that have just been in my past, and that's where I'm spending my Thursday evening. And I actually had somewhere else to be. You see, Friday morning, I'm supposed to give a big donor presentation that, if landed, would allow me to work full-time for the nonprofit that I founded. But instead, I'm throwing back watered down Jack and Cokes. I eventually make it home. I have a horrible night's rest, and I bomb the presentation. You see, when you are loyal to others for no reason, when you choose your friends by accident, you can be distracted. I think about another instance. There's a friend that would call me every day on his ride home from work. He was a teacher. And newsflash, some teachers don't like their jobs. He would complain about the kids. He complained about the administrators. Then other times he'd complain about his family. He complained about every part of his life. And I try to be that uplifting friend. I try to send him a funny joke here, a funny text there, but he didn't want that. He was Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh. And you know the thing about Eeyore? Eeyore enjoys wallowing in squalor. That's the bit. So there I was trying to turn Eeyore into Winnie. And Eeyore is not Winnie. If you're not careful, these folks can drain you, not just of your time. I mean, Eeyore had an hour and 15-minute commute from school to home every day, and we did it 5 days a week. Why? Because he didn't have boundaries and I didn't either. So at the end of the day, you can't allow yourself to put others ahead of your future. You have to put your oxygen mask on. There's your cliche TEDx moment. You know, eventually I would change the way that I chose my friends. I would change the way I chose my surroundings. Dunbar actually has a study. Anthropologist Dunbar says that the average human brain can only hold 150 meaningful connections. There's actually a cap. And of that 150, only 5 of those are actually friends. People whose shoulder you can cry on, your partner, your husband, your wife. And those slots can't be given out willy-nilly. I like to think that we're all driving a 15-passenger van. Think of it. You're in the driver's seat. You have someone that's in the passenger seat, maybe your husband, your wife, your partner, your best friend. And then you've got that front row. Then you've got the rows behind that. An easy distinction is the 150 meaningful connections are folks that you would invite to your wedding, but a friend is someone who's in your wedding. They're a bridesmaid, they're a groomsman. So if we know that there's a finite amount of friend to go around, we should treat it that way. As I started making more friends that were intentional, friends that were interested in some of the same stuff that I was, I realized I no longer went to happy hour because happy hour pulls out one crew. I started going to breakfasts and coffees. You know, there's a difference between the 7 p.m. appetizer type of connection and the 8 a.m. Monday morning breakfast connection. The 8 a.m. breakfast connection leads to an invitation to homecoming at one of the really fun universities that has a big tailgate. And I didn't have to pay to go. Because I'd made friends volunteering and eventually having coffee with the chief of staff for the mayor of that city. And when the chief of staff of the mayor of the city invites you to the football game, you don't sit in the cheap seats. In fact, you get invited to the president's box. So the day comes, myself and my friends, Meaningful Connections, are all going to this big game, and I'm in the president's box, eating chicken tenders and sipping champagne. Then my group text starts blowing up. And here goes this tug of war again. Where y'all at? You see, myself, my friend who was the chief of staff to the mayor, and a couple of other folks were up in the president's box, and in the group chat, Eeyore had found a way to break into the stadium. There was a hole in the fence somewhere, so he was gonna save $40 and get to come in. And there's this crosswords. How do I answer? Do I tell him that I'm in the president's box? He can't come. The person that just broke into the stadium, you cannot take to the president's box. Because not only do they not have the wristband, but the person that broke into the stadium, or the people that broke into the stadium, are gonna embarrass you and you'll never get invited again. You will never get invited again. So I didn't. I looked down, I told them where we were, and then I turned off notifications. I won that tug of war. And so I'm gonna ask each of you to do the same thing. I want you to do what I did. I did what I call a friendship audit. I pulled out my phone, I went to my calendar, I went to my text messages, and I went to my phone calls. Where was I spending my time? I said I wanted to work full-time for my nonprofit, but did my calendar reflect it? I said I wanted to be able to eventually not work a 9 to 5, but did my text messages and my email history reflect that? And I started to see that an hour and 15 minutes every day is 6 hours a week. That's 24 hours a month I was spending talking to Eeyore, right? I promise if you do the same thing, you'll figure out that you need to sort your connections. I did it this way. I put them into 3 buckets. Number 1, they are your keepers. The chief of staff to the mayor was definitely a keeper. This was someone who I didn't keep around just because of their connections and just because we were aligned on so many things. I kept them around because what we did complemented each other. It was reciprocal. So he got to stay. The second group of people are the folks that you like, but you need to downsize. You don't need to talk to Eeyore every day for an hour and 15 minutes. So instead, what I started to do every week, I have 90 minutes of call time, and I turn off the notifications for the people that are in this block, the people who do not have boundaries, the people who will talk your ear off if you let them, the people who don't have goals and aspirations, but for some reason, you want to keep connection, but you have to manage it, and you have to manage your boundaries. And then there's the third group, the people who you have to break up with. And if you're serious about your future, if you're serious about your goals, the next version of you will require that you make decisions like this. I'm not saying that you have to make it dramatic. You don't have to make a big announcement on social media. Just go through your phone, turn off notifications, and figure out what the alternative is for this group of people. Because if you're not careful, you'll let them into the president's box and you'll never be invited again. If you're not careful, they'll keep inviting you to happy hour and you'll never get the grant. I'm sure if you do this, you'll realize that most of your friendships happen on accident and they shouldn't. You'll realize that loyalty, as most of us define it, is overrated. And you'll realize that you should probably break up with most of the people that you consider friends. Thank you.